This is the Giraffes Don't Eat Steak podcast, a show that brings you marketing stories, tips, hints, and much more. A treat for those who want to succeed in business or marketers who just want to learn. Hello, Alex.
Hey Erica, how's it going?
I am great. How are you?
Very well, thank you. Very well.
Good. Well, you know me when I find shiny new tools that I think are awesome. I've invited Robin here today to come and talk to us about the GC index, which
Hey
is
Robin.
another
Alex,
awesome tool that I found.
it is awesome, and thank you, Erica, and hello, Erica and Alex, and hello to everyone out there.
Brilliant. But before we move on to Robin, Alex, you had an exciting weekend, I believe. Do you want to
I
share
did.
your news?
Yeah, I did. I competed at a jiu-jitsu competition in the purple belt division, and I recently got promoted to purple belt, actually only in October, so it was a bit of a step up in competition. It was a harder competition. The fights were harder this time, but I still won. I won all my fights, and I won gold medal. So I was very happy with that.
Well done.
Well, the last time you won a gold medal, you like brought it with you.
I
No,
actually
no,
do have it there. I've got it
no
here.
gold medal today.
Yeah, I've got one here. There we go.
Oh, there we go.
Is it real gold? Gold?
This is my gold medal I got.
Ah, very cool.
Wow.
Robin wants to know if it's real gold. Maybe
Um,
don't say that in case someone's watching and knows where you live.
yeah, I probably won't. I
That's
don't think
fine.
I've actually don't think I've ever held real gold, so I'm not even sure if I'd know if I was holding real gold or not, to be honest.
Well, as long as you don't bite into it and you find out it's chocolate.
Well, I did take a few photos of, like, I don't know if you've ever seen the Rafael Nadal classic, biting your medal when you win. I did do that. And it wasn't chocolate. I can confirm it's not chocolate. And it's quite warm here, so it would have
So don't
melted if it
melt.
was chocolate, but it's still intact. Um I would say it's probably not real gold, but I've been wrong before.
Oh, well, it's awesome anyway. I was telling Robin before you joined, I was like, ooh, I did some sort of martial arts. I can't remember which one. So thank you for explaining that because I would have got it wrong.
I did one class of karate, and that's about it. That was when I was scouts a long time ago. I know the blocking moves, that's about it.
Brilliant. Awesome. Well, Robin, over to you. Why don't you introduce yourself to the viewers and listeners and Alex?
Okie dokie. Well, I'm Robin Davis. I'm a solopreneur of a company called Assuritivity Consulting Limited. I'm an advisor, and I specialize actually in building the foundations of organizations. They typically overlook the most obvious things, and the most simplest and obvious thing is people. So I have switched from being more technology based. So my background is in architecture, strategy, and operating models. But I always prioritize technology over the process of the people. And I thought, poor people, they get labeled with project manager, program manager, whatever else, but there are different flavors and it's not utilizing people's potential. So when I found this thing called the GC index, it stands for the game changing index, it brought everything to life. I thought, people, they do have a potential to make an impact, and it brings the invisible visible. It enables people to actually understand where their major potential is. And then you can actually tailor coaching, education, training, to align with that. So there are things that you do during your day which you don't like doing. So for me, it's admin. Erica, I think the same is you. So that's what we align with, what we call our implementer. I won't go into all that yet. But when I found the GC index, that was a major milestone. I thought this is something I've been looking for a very long time. So we can actually change it from technology, process, and people, and flip it the other way up. So we actually put people at the top, especially as AI has come around as well. So I'm also a core member of an AI collective of over 700 people worldwide. Actually, I think it's 900 now.
So Robin, let's
Yeah.
just take a bit of a step back, because I think you and I are, well, you're even more ahead, and then me. Alex is looking confused.
Fine.
What is the GC index? What is
Yeah, that was my question. Where does it originate from? What is it?
what
What
is
does it
it?
measure?
Okay, well, it originates from chief psychologists. They were asked in about 2014 by a consortium of businesses to identify they were challenged with identifying the game changers in the world. Business wanted to know, how do we find the likes of Steve Jobs in our organizations? And they did a load of research across various studies and identified that, yes, they could quite easily identify the game changers. But in the data, they found there's a lot more in there. So I'm just going to change. So this is what the GC index actually looks like. So it's five colored blobs, 5 colored balls, balloons. So the game changer is actually the green one, the top right. But they found there was a lot more in there. So they identified the blue one, the strategist. They identified the red one, which is the implementer, and the orangey yellow one, which is the polisher. So the game changer is the one that finds the left field ideas, the real transformational, creative, inventive ideas. They typically struggle to actually communicate their ideas to other people. So we buddy them up with the strategist, the blue one. So they look at patterns, they look at strategy, they look at the long term. So they're able to piece together the game changers' ideas and say, yes, that will fly, and they can kick the tires, and they can also translate it to everyone else. The red one, the implementer, they don't like the ideas people. They just want to know, okay, just tell me what you want me to do and by when, and I'll deliver it. So people with high energy there, they will deliver it. The polisher wants to make everything perfect, and they're into continuous development, continuous innovation. So they will go with what has already gone before, and they'll just make it better. And in the middle, you got the playmaker. So that's someone who tries to collaborate and get consensus and get the most out of everyone. But everyone has different energies between 1 and 10. You'll see that I've got quite mediocre energies. My polisher is currently higher. But your level of energy dictates as to how much energy you actually have to do a certain activity. So you'll see my red implementer is quite low. So for me to do something like a project manager role, I don't have energy for that. If I'm doing implementation day in, day out, 8 hours a day, I don't have energy for that.
So for our listeners,
Yeah.
That implementer for Robin is a 4 out of 10.
Yes.
That's why he says it's quite low. So Robin, you've got a yellow with an 8 there. What is that? That's your highest, 8 out of 10.
Yes, that's my polisher. So
Polisher.
I'm currently for the last year and a half, I'm in a phase of actually improving and pivoting my services to come up with different propositions for people. So that is trying to make everything as perfect as it can be for phase 1, phase 2 of my services.
Okay. So just the reason we connected was I filled in this survey. So for those of you listening, it's a bit like Myers-Briggs, I guess, where we all have all of it in some shape or form, but some things we have higher energies for than others, right? So there's hardly, have you ever seen a 0 in any of the blocks, Robin?
Uh, yes, I
Oh,
have.
you have. Oh,
Yeah.
okay. So it is possible to be a 0.
Yeah.
And it was fascinating, and the way this relates to marketing, if you're still listening and wondering what on earth does this have to do with marketing, the way this relates is Robin did my personal profile, which we fought about, I must admit, because it had me as a high on the people side. And those of you who know me know that as an introvert, if you talk about people, my immediately instinct is to run away screaming. But anyway, after we unpacked it and spoke about it, I understood it. But then he ran our website, the Marketing Detective website, through his GPT and showed that the wording that we were using on the website is showing a completely different profile to what Alex, you and I intend. And so from a marketing perspective, that's where my little ears perked up because we often write copy, especially if you're writing your own copy or you're getting a copywriter to write it, with an interpretation of what we think we're saying. And actually, this was such an awesome tool to go and say, well, what were you actually saying? So for real example, as marketing detective, Alex, we came out high on implementer.
Mhm.
And both you and I are bad at implementing. We don't like it. We can do it. No, we're not bad. We're actually excellent when we do it lastminute.com, right? Night before, we can pull it out of the bag and we can do an excellent job. But we'd much rather be doing the strategy stuff, the target client identification, the digging into your business. That's where we're light up and we have fun, right? But the way that we've done the copy of our website is showing that we love the implementing side, and that's what blew my mind. That was like, oh, wait, no, that's not right. Do you want to talk a bit about that, Robin?
Yes. So just to backtrack a tiny bit, I mean, the GC index is for people.
Yes.
So whether it's individuals or teams, so it scales to teams as well. It fully maps onto the business change life cycle. So it is very easy for people to understand. It does differ from the likes of personality assessments like Myers-Briggs, because that is much further down the what we call the cognitive behavioral pathway. So that's more on personality. It does not map directly to the business change life cycle. So it makes it very difficult for people to actually understand, I'm a Myers-Briggs INTJ, believe it or not, even though I'm quite gobby. But it's very difficult to say, well, that's very nice, but I don't know what to do with it. I don't know what to do with it in the business sphere. So the GC index is for people, but we do have an equivalent that we use, like you said, for any written documentation, whether it's LinkedIn, CVs, websites, any sort of messaging, vision statements, mission statements, where we look at the energy keywords. So yes, it is a keyword thing, but for any one keyword, it has to map directly with one of our what we call the proclivities. So we have the 5 proclivities, game changers, strategies, etc. Those keywords, unconsciously or subconsciously, we pick up on those in any written documentation, but it's very hard to actually understand. It's very hard, which is why we say with the GC index and this thing called GC translate for written documentation, that we make the invisible visible. We can actually bring it to the fore and say, actually, how you're portraying yourself on your web pages or in your documentation or even your emails, is that the intent that you want to bring across? If not, we can help you actually tailor that so it does show you your strengths and your objectives a lot better. Of course, it may be that your audience is completely different that you want to attract. So as part of the GC index and GC translate, we can say, actually, if you are trying to attract this kind of audience, they get motivated by someone talking about these kinds of challenges or those kinds of challenges. So you can actually pivot it as well to what your audience, your ideal audience, is actually looking for. So that you are complementing your audience with your services or with whatever you're marketing totally differently to what your own natural strengths are, because you know that you will complement them. Does that make sense?
Yes, it makes sense to me. Well, I mean, it sounds like an incredibly powerful additional tool alongside your own skill bases. So, for example, even a copywriter, I think it's a good sense check for a copywriter at a minimum that they're portraying the right message and the right value of the content to the reader.
I mean, I just to give you one example, when we released GC Translate in beta, I did actually have a look on LinkedIn, and I looked for 3 CIO roles that were being advertised on LinkedIn. So it's just, you know, a role spec as opposed to anything else. And I got 3 CIO roles. One was for the CIO of NATO, one was for the CIO of NICE, and one was for the CIO of the UK Post Office. Now, in NATO, you'd expect, you know, for a CIO of NATO, it's long-term strategy, it's, you know, lots of stakeholders. They got their job spec correct. You know, they were looking, when we ran it through, it was coming up with a high strategist and a high playmaker. And you think, that makes sense. For the CIO of NICE, the clinical excellence people, they obviously need to, because it's clinical excellence, they need to make sure everything is excellent before it comes out. So again, they had a lot of stakeholders, but they were predominantly polisher, so they wanted to make everything perfect, and a load of stakeholders, so playmaker. For those that know the UK Post Office, it's been going through quite a lot of turmoil for many years. The CIO role for that was pretty much even across all the 5 proclivities, which is very synonymous of what we call a transformational role. Basically, they need to change everything. So those are very good examples. Just at a glance, you can see, yes, they've got the job specs about right.
And how does it link certain words with, I mean, do you have a database of words per, what do you call them, per profile?
Proclivity, it's your natural tendency to do things. So yeah, just to recap on that, yeah, your proclivity is your natural tendency. So if you had 5 different activities, one each per proclivity, that you could choose from, you would tend to choose the ones where you have the highest energy, because you go, that's what gives me energy, and that's what I have a lot of energy in, and I like doing it. Where you have low energy, you try to avoid that activity because you don't want to do it. So, you know, for us, it's admin. So you say, well, you know, I can do it. I may be very good at it, but I just don't like doing it. So you'll avoid that. So yes, it's they're called proclivities. It's your natural tendencies.
And my actual question though was how does it if you're scanning a website,
yeah, yeah,
and you have lots of different terminology and keywords in there, does the tool, the index, have a database of words per profile? What do you call those? What do you call each one of those?
Proclivity.
We call them proclivities, but yes, we do have a database, and it's always been built up. So it's not just individual words now; it is, you know, combinations of words. So anything like transformation or inventive, that is obviously game changer. Anything that says delivery, that is implementer. Polisher, you know, things like continuous improvement. I mean, these are just basic examples, but each time we actually identify any new words, we do actually have an AI engine behind it as well that's trying to identify anything new that we don't already have. It will flash those up and say, you know, I think this maps directly to such and such a proclivity, and our psychologists will then go through it and say, actually, yes, this is purely for that one proclivity. You know, if it could relate to more than one proclivity, we discount it. We just say no because it's too ambiguous. So we do have a database, and it literally, I mean, Erica has been playing with it as well, I know. The GC Translate, you know, you can just do a, you know, copy all from a web page or whatever document, just paste it to GC Translate. It literally takes 5 seconds, and it will come up with what the energy profile is straight away.
So for me, the real power of this tool, other than the fact that I'm playing with websites, is about teamwork. And I thought this would be interesting, Alex, because when we had big marketing teams, so when we were part of big marketing teams in corporate, it was often very clear that we were missing an element. You know, and even though we liked everyone, we tried really hard to only recruit people that we liked in our teams. But then if everyone is, and this, this GC index made it all clear to me where we were going wrong, or where I was going wrong, maybe as a manager, because if everybody likes strategy and there's nobody in the team that likes implementing, then we have a problem, right? Because then your team is not functioning correctly.
You probably
Um,
actually have two problems.
okay.
You first off, you don't have someone to do the implementing, but then if everyone has high energy and strategy, then they're probably conflicting with each other. That there'll be someone who is dominant and someone that's been overlooked. So you have a high risk of people clashing with each other.
Mm, okay, that makes well. I don't know what the rest of it would have, it would be interesting. Maybe we can reach out, Alex, to all our old
And,
team
and,
members.
and also different viewpoints on strategy.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, okay. But so how useful this would be if you're recruiting, right? If you
Yeah,
know
very.
where your team is currently sitting and where the preferences lie, so you can see where your natural gap is, and then quickly, I mean, it looks like you can run a CV through this tool, which will give you an indicator, which may help with shortlisting. If you've got thousands of CVs to go through, you can maybe shortlist the ones that are closest to the match you want, and then only meet those people. So I think there's lots of application for teams. I thought that was really exciting and something I wish we had. I mean, we all did Myers-Briggs, but as you say, I'm INTJ, and
And what?
that means what?
Yeah.
It's more about self-understanding than business understanding, right? It's more personal development, I suppose.
I, I think also like in if you're in a business that is scaling up rapidly at a certain point,
Mm,
also be really, really important because at that point you say, well, we're this size, but we need to double in the next 6 months because of whatever. And you as the lead strategist for the business, you can say, well, our business needs to be exactly the same in terms of the core team that we have because we've done really well, strategies, implementer, polisher, blah, blah, blah. And as you know, it's much harder to control the culture of a business as it grows. It gets harder and harder and harder and harder, especially if you have a rapid recruitment drive. If you
yeah.
recruit a person one by one person every year, you can take your time with that person. If they don't fit, they can leave and another one person come in. But if you need to recruit 30, 40, 50 people in 6 months, this takes kind of a lot of the legwork out of really trying to identify the people and doing the trial and error that you can do naturally over a longer period of time on a slower recruitment drive.
And
Yeah,
and reduce your risk, right? Reduce the risk of getting them because if you're a strong strategist, in your example, Alex, of a startup, if you hire another strong strategist, it's probably going to be war from day one, right?
Yeah, yeah.
Which is just detrimental for everyone's peace of mind.
it is. I mean, we do engage with boards and CEOs. I mean, we can. I've got a couple of case studies, not the ones that I did, but ones that our chief psychologist did, where you can actually see recruitment bias. That the
Mm,
CEO and the board, they actually have a very similar profile, relatively between each other. They go, you've actually recruited in your own likeness. Whereas for others, we can see, like for a new CEO may say, okay, what am I contending with my board, and you can have a look at the existing team. So before you come up with a role spec for a replacement, they may think they want position X, but you think actually looking at your team, like you were saying, Erica, you don't need another strategist. You think actually you got plenty of strategists. but what you are missing is an implementer. You need someone with a very strong implementer. And there may actually be someone latent within the team that has high energy, may not be trained sufficiently or whatever else, but they do have a natural proclivity, natural energy that is being overlooked. They may be doing some other role or activity that they don't like doing. They may be demotivated. They may be looking to leave, which gives you another headache because you're going to end up with someone else that you need to recruit. So, like you were saying before, Erica, yes, to actually profile the team before they actually go to market to say, what is it that you really need? Because I mean, that is one of my key propositions with exec search. When I talk to various headhunters, they said most of the time the first round, which can take a few months, the first round is often a washout because execs, they don't exactly know what they want.
Yeah.
But they do know after the first round of interviews, they go, we didn't know what we did want, but we know now what we don't want.
Absolutely. Yeah, that's true.
So we can shortcut that and save, 6 months, 12 months, very, very quickly, which, costs most organizations a lot of money.
Recruitment is it's time and cost intensive. It's especially for small businesses who
Yeah.
do not have an expert recruitment team, an HR team, whatever. And if it's just the CEO or the managing director or whatever, someone senior who has a lot on their plate already, to then start recruiting, it's for a better word, it's a ball ache.
Yeah, I mean, especially if you got everyone else compensating for that empty seat, you got the empty seat syndrome. I mean, when I went through sort of cost benefits analysis, let's say for a £100,000 job, it actually costs an organisation about £250,000
Wow.
to actually recruit someone. In terms of time, in terms of the empty seat syndrome, and all that time you're actually probably burning out other people who are compensating for that empty seat.
Yeah.
It's just, I know whenever I've been recruiting, I just think, oh no, I don't have to recruit again, do I? Because I know how strenuous it is and how time consuming it is.
And I suppose it becomes a vicious cycle if you've messed up. So if you've gone through all that effort of recruiting and ended up with the wrong person, a lot of people hold on to that thinking, no, it must, I'm just a little bit more time. I just need to give it more time. You don't move fast enough to get rid of them. And then when you have to start again, when you finally gone through the effort of getting, then you're even further behind than when you started because now you're demotivated on top of it and doubly anxious not to make the same mistake. But actually, then you're looking even harder for people like you because you're like, well, if this person was more like me, they would have fit in, right? So then it's even more important to have a view of what the skill is or what the passion is that's needed. I also liked your idea. I hadn't thought about this until you mentioned it, of just basic performance, right? Because if someone is in the wrong job, and actually this week I was talking to someone who spoke about someone who started in their office as the cleaner and within 6 months is now running the office because he spotted a skill. And so there may be an opportunity there that because the job they're doing doesn't highlight the proclivities, that if you understand the proclivities, they may be better off in another job, um, and do better, right? So that's another angle that I actually hadn't thought about, is just getting people to be doing jobs they love.
Yeah, I mean, for our team reports, we actually come up with 4 different types of report. One is dominant, one is inclusive, and I always forget the other one. But they show the team in different lights. The dominant one is based on what their dominant proclivities are. The inclusive one is we do a haircut a bit lower down. So basically, we're looking at who does have good potential. It may not be their top proclivity, but they could be successors of those in top proclivities or something that's been overlooked. So we can actually see where natural successors are. They may, as I said, they may not be properly skilled or trained in what they need to do. So your cleaner is a very good example. You know, they have the natural energy, they have the natural passion in a certain area. They just maybe need to get put on a training course or something like that. But we can also see very easily what we have a thing called a latent profile. So that's where all your energies are lower than 5. That
Okay.
means that someone is demotivated, that they are disengaged, and they're likely to go.
Ah,
So we can see that very easily and then take them through coaching, a bit of confidence building and everything else, and then get them to do their profile again. And that's when you start to see their natural energies come back.
awesome. Wow, wow. So, yes, Alex, that's my latest shiny tool that I'm loving. I think from a few angles, as I said, finding out more about me personally was awesome. So I do encourage people just to reach out to Robin and get your personal profile done and have a look. Finding out what our website or my LinkedIn profile is saying, which is wrong, and I'm busy fixing that. So making sure it says what I want, but also from teamwork and just making sure when you recruit, when you're working with a team, that you're understanding where people are and how you can bring out the best in them and the best for delivery of what you need to perform, right?
Just another angle. I was thinking if you're, I don't know if this works or not, but if you're a company and you have a project that you have a project and you are doing an RFQ, for example, so lots of companies are bidding for your work. Is it something that you can use as a preliminary kind of sense check of understanding what the skill sets are in those businesses as part of their pitching for your project?
Well, I mean, you can certainly see the motivation. I mean, it is different to skills. I mean, we have an equation that impact equals your GC index potential plus skills plus or minus personality. I mean, you may have the best potential in the world, but have a toxic personality. So that can all impact your impact. So we are careful that we don't necessarily talk about skills. But in terms of the RFQ, then yes, you can certainly see, you can run that through the GC Translate, and you can have a look at the different motivations of what they're looking for. The better one will be to actually, have a look at the if at worst, the LinkedIn profiles of who the client is, or ideally look at the GC index profiles of who the client is, so you can actually work out what their motivational styles are, how to best engage them, and what they're looking for. We can infer that from, let's say, the RFQ to say, okay, there's lots of sort of words here which shows that they are more of an implementer. So if we need to put a response in which is more implementing, more direct, saying about exactly what we do, than anything else. Yeah.
Brilliant. Nice one. Robin, if anyone is really interested in getting in touch with you, having their profile done, running their teams through this, how do they do that?
Well, they can find me on LinkedIn. So I'm Robin Davis without an E, Davis. My LinkedIn URL is blah 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 / Robin Davis 22. You can also find me at assuritivity.com. Now that's a bit of a mouthful, but think of assurance and productivity squished together. So it's Alpha, Sierra, Sierra, Uniform, Romeo, Indigo, Tango, Indigo, Victor, Indigo, Tango, Yankee.com. Yeah, it is a mouthful. Or you can, get in touch with you, Erica, and you can pour them through to me.
Always, always. You can always reach me and I will definitely refer them.
Or Alex, of course. We do have quite a lot of GC partners like me actually in Colombia.
Oh, there we
Yeah,
go.
they had a big shindig a few weeks ago, and I did a whole suite of different AI prompts for the GC index for them because they're trying to get onto the AI bandwagon. So
Oh, you missed out, Alex. You could have had a party. Alex, any last questions, thoughts on the GC index?
No real questions, but I think it's a very powerful tool, and from many different angles, from recruitment to pitching to presenting yourself to finding out a little bit more about another business client or potential partner. So I think, and of course your team, optimizing your team. I think it's a very well-rounded tool that I think can help you in many aspects of the business. But yeah, no real questions.
Awesome.
It does. I mean, just a final point. I mean, anywhere where there is people, which should be everywhere, we can add value. So
Yeah.
even during an actual change program, if you've got different phases in the change program, we can actually help you make sure that you have the best team up there or involved in team meetings at a certain stage. So like at the beginning of a project or program, you want the ideas people there. You don't want the implementers there because they just get frustrated and just say, I'm just wasting my time. And that brings everyone down. So, we can tailor the necessarily stakeholders in a change program quite easily.
And maybe in 20 years' time, when we have AI robots everywhere, we'll need to develop a GC index for AI personalities.
Well, funny you should say that, because what I haven't said is we have a junior equivalent of the GC index. It's a offshoot called the Young People Index, which we do use in schools. So we use it for the teachers, we use it for the kids, we use it for parents and kids. But certainly since the pandemic, there's been a lot of children, certainly in the UK, that have, and certainly in this volatile world that we're living in, especially with AI coming along as well now, that they have high anxiety and low confidence. Just what we do with the Young People Index, it is showing them where their potential is. It is boosting their confidence, diminishing their anxiety so much, so we can actually tailor it. And as part of the sort of GPT and AI platforms that I've developed and I'm developing also with our GC Index HQ, the vision is, and I've got educators involved as well, the vision is that we can actually tailor education to the individual as to how the individual actually likes to learn the most. So they could have a core curriculum, 20% provided by any old teacher, then 80% of it actually then delivered by a tailored AI for that student.
Wow, that sounds like a whole different podcast episode.
It is.
We'll get you back again, Robin, to talk about that, because I think there's a whole angle there that we haven't even touched on. But thank you so much for joining us today. It's been fabulous. Anyone listening, reach out to Robin. I think I'm super excited. I'm playing with this every single day. I'm having so much fun unpacking what I think and looking at different websites. So I'm sure there is value for everyone.
Thank you very much for inviting me, both of you.
Awesome. See you later, Alex. Bye, Robin.
Thank you, Robin.
Bye.
That wraps up this episode of Giraffes Don't Eat Steak. Thanks for joining us. I hope you found value in our discussion and got some new ideas to apply to your own business. Tune in next week for another round of marketing insights and inspiration. If you enjoyed this episode, please leave us a review and subscribe on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you listen to podcasts. We appreciate you listening. Catch you next time on Giraffes Don't Eat Steak.